I sold my Gibson Les Pauls and got this instead. It's way more affordable, but is it as good or is it even better? Let's find out, and let's start right away with a demo track. Take a listen. I hope you enjoyed that. That was this guitar, the ESP Edwards LP-CTM into the Synergy Syn20IR with the Bogner Überschall module loaded in on the red channel for a nice and thick high gain tone. The Synergy was fed into my Grossmann Fatbox cabinet, in which I had loaded up my Celestion Vintage 30, the recently UK-made version. Mic'd up with 3 mics, 2 SM57s and 1 MD420 on Kompakt, sent into the DAW, and there you go, that's what you heard. So I sold my Gibsons. I had 2 Les Pauls that you've probably seen on the channel. I had a Les Paul Custom and a Les Paul Standard 60s, and I sold both of them. But why, John? Why did you sell your Gibsons? Well, I don't want to get into the details too much, but let's just say that Gibson is a company that I just don't feel comfortable supporting on the channel. And a lot of people have different and varying opinions on that subject, and that's absolutely fine. That was just my personal choice, okay? Now, the guitars that I had were good. I mean, the Les Paul Custom was a great guitar. You know, it was a dream guitar. I made a video about that some years ago when I purchased that guitar for quite a lot of money, I must add. And the Les Paul Standard 60s was kind of my go-to guitar for classic rock. And again, they both were solid guitars, but there was something about them that bothered me a little bit aside from the whole Gibson as a company thing. I felt like those Gibsons, they felt like old guitars, if you know what I mean, because they're very traditional, obviously. And I tend to gravitate towards more modern guitars with modern specs and a modern feel. For example, the finish on the necks was quite sticky, and I just couldn't get rid of that feeling, you know? And while other guitars, more modern guitars that I have with gloss finishes are way less sticky. Also, a lot of times there would be some rattle or some type of vibration in the guitar that was a bit annoying to me. Stuff like that, you know, and intonation issues with the G string, you know what I mean. So yeah, I sold them off, and that was that. And then the quest started for some good Les Paul alternatives. And I actually bought some ESP E2 guitars first. I'll show them to you. So I bought these 2 guitars, 2 E2 Eclipses. This is a full thickness model, and this one has Seymour Duncan pickups. This one is a thinner one with double binding, so it's more like a custom. Great sparkle finish. This one has EMG pickups. So this was kind of my replacement for the Les Paul Standard 60s, you know, for the more classic stuff with the Duncan pickups. Because in my old Les Paul Standard 60s, I had put some Duncans. The same pickups are as in here, so the JB and the 59, because I hated the Burstbucker 61 pickups in that guitar. And yeah, this one is kind of my replacement for the custom with the double binding and the more modern look and sound. Yeah, both of these are really good guitars. I love them so much. And in terms of quality and sound, they are just as good as my old Gibsons. But obviously this one is quite a bit different from my custom, right? Because this has EMGs and it's a bit thinner, etc. So my quest hadn't ended there. So those made in Japan ESPs or E2s are obviously really good guitars and I love them a lot, but they're not the same as my old Gibson, right? So I stumbled across this web store from Finland, Viking Music, and they had a couple of these Edwards for sale. Now you don't see these very often because these Edwards models are made for the Japanese market. So you can't really get them in Europe unless they're imported, right? And they are very, you know, Gibson-like, especially the shape of the headstock and everything is, it's basically a very good Les Paul custom copy. And when you get these new in Japan, I think they're like 800 euros or so. But when you import them through a store, obviously it's going to be a bit more expensive. So I think this was around 1,300 euros. I'm not sure. The last time I checked, they were like 1,500 euros at that store. And I was a little bit hesitant. I emailed them to ask them about the quality and stuff, and they assured me that the quality is really good. Now, this one says that it's made in Japan. There's a little sticker. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little sticker there that says made in Japan. But I also did some reading, and a lot of people think that they're made in China, but assembled in Japan or whatnot. I'm not sure about that, okay? All I know is that this one says made in Japan. So I bit the bullet and I said, you know what, let's do it. So I ordered one, this one. And it came here, and I was quite nervous because, you know, the reference for me would be my old Gibson Les Paul Custom, right? So it's never going to be as good. So I took it out of the case, and it looks really good. As you can see, it looked really good. It looked just like a good old Gibson Les Paul Custom. And I started playing it, and I couldn't believe how good this thing felt in my hands. I couldn't believe it. Also in terms of the weight, because Gibson Les Paul Customs tend to weigh a lot, you know, which I like. I like the thickness that adds to the tone, and I just like how it feels on the lap and in the hands, right? I also immediately noticed that the neck on this one is a little bit more round, a little bit more thick, but it's still quite comfortable. Yeah, the neck on my old Les Paul Custom was quite a fast neck. I used to have another one years before that was also quite fast. That one had issues with the binding though. The binding started to flake off or something weird, or the finish on the binding rather. Another thing that I noticed quickly is that the finish on this guitar feels more modern and more smooth. So obviously it's a gloss finish, just like my old Gibsons, but it's not as sticky. So it feels very smooth in the hand, in the neck and stuff. So that's great. Now let's take a quick look at the specs and talk about some of the differences between this and my old Gibson Les Paul Custom. So we have a mahogany body. I don't know of how many pieces this body is. You can't really see it. I think it's a two-piece body, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you can see that little crease in the middle. Probably not on camera anyway. I think they make Les Paul Customs in the custom shop out of one piece. I'm not sure, but that's like a small difference, right? Then we have a mahogany neck, I believe. A set neck, of course. I'm not sure how the neck tenon differs with the Gibson models. I have no idea, but it feels very solid. We have an ebony fretboard. And these frets, they don't feel super jumbo, but they're not, you know, very skinny either. So great frets. The Gibson Les Paul Custom has fret nibs. If you don't know what that is, definitely look it up. This one doesn't. But the frets have been finished very nicely. So this feels super smooth, really high quality here on the frets. I believe these are nickel frets, so not stainless steel. Correct me if I'm wrong though. We have 4 controls over here. I did replace these with these sort of see-through knobs. It came with the top hat ones. I just don't like the look of those, so I replaced them with these. These also were on my old Gibson. We have a black pickguard over here, of course. A vintage style Tune-o-matic bridge that goes straight into the body, if you know what I mean, over here with the tailpiece. The selector switch is gold, which is cool. That's different. And my old Gibson had like a metal plate over here. This one just has like a plastic plate. Beautiful double binding, as you can see. Looks just as good as my old Gibson in that regard. In fact, The binding on this guitar looks better than my old Gibson, because obviously they do the Gibsons with their hands. They're handmade, and there are always flaws in the binding. Not that that's a big deal, but the binding on these just looks more well made. It's more flawless. Now, these inlays are probably from a different material. Not mother of pearl, but probably some kind of plastic, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. We have these tuners. I don't know what brand these are. Let's check. Goto tuners. Very nice. Not locking or anything like that. Serial number. Made in Japan. And the open book headstock shape, as you can see. And of course, obviously the logo is different, but also the inlays over here are a little bit different. But they look very cool. It's a cool take on that, you know, classic Les Paul headstock with the designs and stuff. Another thing, aside from the knobs, that I didn't like about the guitar were the stock pickups. I think these come with the Legacy pickups or something. I didn't like how they sounded. I think that the bridge pickup especially was just a little bit too unbalanced for my personal taste. They didn't sound horrible, but I took them out and put some Gibson pickups in here, ironically. So this is the 498T and the 490 something. These are the exact same pickups as in my old Gibson Les Paul Custom, but I just really liked the sound of those pickups. So I put them in here, you know, bought these from Thomann. And there's that, and it sounds really good now. It sounds very close to my old one, albeit with a bit better intonation, in fact. So it's pretty crazy how this guitar retails for 800 euros or so, maybe even less in Japan. It's made in Japan, so the quality is really good. I can tell you, this thing feels amazing. The frets have been leveled perfectly, so the action is very comfortable. You can get it as low as you want without any fret buzz issues. The quality of the wood is really good. It's super resonant, and especially acoustically, it's just as good as my old 5,000 something Gibson Les Paul Custom, and you can buy these at a fraction of the price. So that is just insane to me. Okay. You might have to do some upgrades, like replace the pickups, as I did, depending on your taste. You might want to replace the knobs if you don't like those top hat knobs. And the feel is a little bit different too, as I mentioned. So it's a bit more round and a bit more thick than my old Custom, but it's still very comfortable. You know, that takes a couple minutes to get used to. But it's such a solid guitar, and I'm really happy that I bought this thing. What I'd like to do now is just show you some quick tones with this guitar into the Synergy amp and show you the various pickup combinations. Take a listen. All right, so I'm sitting here with my ESP Edwards LP-CTM with the Gibson pickups, the 498T and the 490. Going into the Synergy Syn20IR with the Bogner Ecstasy module loaded up on the red channel. We're just going to have some quick fun, and I'm going to show you some tones that this guitar has to offer. Now, as mentioned, of course, these are not the stock pickups. So if you buy one of these guitars, you're going to get different pickups. They're going to sound a little bit different, but of course, you know, pickups are a relatively easy thing to upgrade. And I just preferred the sound of these pickups, so that's why they are in this guitar. Now, in terms of the tones that this guitar has to offer and the controls, it's just like your typical Les Paul. So we're on the bridge pickup right now, which of course is my favorite sort of pickup for rock, rhythm especially. So yeah, this is how it sounds. Nice and bitey with plenty of thickness as well. I must say that this Ecstasy module sounds pretty thick as well. Sounds really nice. And then when we do the same thing with the other pickup settings, you get different tones, obviously. So let's move to the middle position. It's less suitable for heavy rhythms, obviously. And then the neck pickup as well. So yeah, again, the bridge pickup is where it's at for the heavy stuff. It's just like a really satisfying tone with a lot of richness, thickness, and a lot of sustain as well. And now some clean tones, starting with the bridge pickup. And then the middle position. And finally, the neck pickup as well. So yeah, those are the tones of my Edwards LP-CTM. All right, so that's the ESP Edwards LP-CTM. My replacement for my old Gibson Les Paul Custom. It looks very similar, sounds very similar, but it's such a good guitar. I love this guitar just as much as I loved my old Gibson. In fact, I might love this one a little bit more for a couple reasons. The finish, the smooth finish. It feels great in the hand. It's not so sticky. The intonation is a little bit better on this guitar as well. The frets are so nicely level that I can get the action just how I want. It's absolutely perfect in that regard. You know, the acoustic resonance is great. It looks beautiful. It's a workhorse of a guitar. So I highly recommend one of these if you're looking for something as an alternative to Gibson. You might want to import them directly from Japan. That's the most affordable option. I bought it from a retailer in Europe, of course, so the price is going to be a bit higher because of that, but it was totally worth it for me. And I'm very honest here, I don't regret selling my Gibsons at all, and that was probably 6 months ago or so. I also have those other E2s and a bunch of killer LTDs, you know, that also do a great job at sort of emulating the Les Paul shape. But this one is just a bit more classic, and it gives me that familiar sound, look, and feel of my old Gibson Les Paul Customs that I used to have. But yeah, I don't own any Gibsons anymore. I don't regret it. I love this thing just so much. So I'm a happy, happy guy. And yeah, I recommend checking these out if you're in Japan or if you feel like importing a guitar like this. All right, guys, I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this guitar. If you want to support this channel, you can buy something at my affiliate links, like an ESP LTD or a Gibson, whatever, for Thomann and Sweetwater. I'd really appreciate that. You get to support the channel that way at no additional cost. You can also get something in my web store, like an IR pack or a Quad Cortex or Tonex capture pack. I'd really appreciate that. And of course, also hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, as that really helps the channel out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.